My name is Steve Levy. I am not PHR certified. I am not SPHR certified. I am not GPHR certified.
You're clearly certified.
Jim and I have known each other for way too many years. I'm curious, how many people here have LinkedIn accounts? Just by show of hands, and keep your hands up. For those who have the, I know it's early, so if you have a LinkedIn account, hands up. How many of you who have LinkedIn accounts also have Facebook accounts? Hands up. How many of you who have LinkedIn and Facebook accounts also Twitter? Question for those here. Do you want to, how many of you work for companies that you want to develop and implement a social media strategy for? Already? I just, Andrea and I know each other, so you can keep your hand. I know what your answer is going to be. How many of you are looking to get some insight into developing a social media policy and strategy? Policy more than anything else. Okay, as far as social media policy, I'm going to get this out of the way. If you Google the phrase social media policy, put in social media policy, then a space, and then put this following phrase in here. File type, colon, DOC. Get this out of the way. That's going to pull up Word documents on the internet that have social media policy in them. Those of us who are old enough to remember, Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, realize that he got millions and millions of people galvanized without email, without Twitter, without Facebook, without LinkedIn, nothing. And it was a sustainable movement. The difference with all these social media tools, and those who have a longer presence doing it, Ernest and Andrea, people are really authentic when they talk about topics and subjects. But the problem with all these tools is how can you create a sustainable movement and effort such that you're creating change. You're changing the brand of your company to something that is in fact truthful and not what's written on the career page. Because if you go to all your career pages, I'm sure they say, we're a world-class leader in blah. We hire the best and the brightest, blah. We have the best compensation and benefit, blah. If everyone's the same, then there's no difference. And the whole point of doing social media is to differentiate yourself from somebody else. Just to get that out of the way. Call them. I won't give you a statistic, but it'll shock you when they tell you that no one has ever done this before. And that's going to be a much, much stronger and solid relationship in the long term. And again, this is still all about basic communication, and we're talking too much, and the media spend too much time talking about the magic of Twitter, the magic of Facebook, the magic of social media. Well, there's no magic if you're not going to really do something with it. It's not the, I mean, the process is what social media is. What you do with it is the relationship building part. And again, in the long term, my suggestion is when someone follows you on, accepts your connection or invites you, you call them up and say thank you. I just want to thank you for doing it. How many of you are, by the way, on LinkedIn belong to groups? Okay, when you join a group and you're accepted, another thing, do you send an email to the group leader or call them and say, hey, thanks for having me as a member of the group? Guaranteed, it'll put you that much further ahead of everybody else. So as a policy and a go-forward policy, think about doing that. The thing with social media is, there are certain guidelines, as I call them. I'll read them off here. You can't manage what you can't measure. Your structure, policy, and guidelines need to be scalable. That means if you're a startup company, your social media policy and strategy is different than if you're a, how many TD Ameritrade employees are there?
Almost 6.
Lots.
1,000.
Yeah, and so you have to essentially write a policy such that covers a larger number of people. The more people you have, the more misfits and deviants you probably have. Creativity and personality would beat big budgets. Companies spend a lot of money and paying a lot of social media experts to come up with this grand old strategy, and it still doesn't work because the people who are doing it aren't personable. They're very dry. They're not authentic.
I probably fall into the category of I have these accounts, but I'm not actively utilizing it for myself, or let's say, as a company, we don't have those accounts, but let's say for myself, I feel it's somewhat not labor intensive, but time. Having the time and taking the time to, whether for myself or for recruitments, to do all this.
There's a lot of stuff there, and let me jump ahead to that because that's important. The big, let's see, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, blogging. That's the big bulk up there. To set things up, to set up your accounts, to make them look like you want them to look like, for example, on LinkedIn, there's a lot of customizing available. I mean, you can upload PowerPoints, you can upload your Amazon list. I mean, some people want to see what other people are reading, and there are a slew of applications that take time to load and then look for content and add and cultivate. It's like cultivating any relationship. It just takes time to get to the point where you really you love the person, you like, and all of a sudden you love the person. Same thing with Twitter. I mean, you can start putting things out there, but the initial outlay is going to be a significant piece. I've been blogging since '04, and I used to put out, I don't know, 3 to 5 blog posts a week, and it was taking me, in the initial years, I don't know, I was probably spending 10 or so hours with this stuff. Again, I did a lot of experimentation, but I did spend a lot of time. Now now that everything's up and running, I spend maybe 2 hours a week doing this stuff. Here's a good example. Procedure, this is what I do. I get a lot of emails, e-zines, and across a variety of different topics. I'm up way too early,